Hi, thanks for coming. This is a presentation on garlic clove growth. This presentation was actually inspired because I did have a garlic clove in my pantry and it started growing, and I have actually grown them in the past and had the plant, and I actually looked it up, and the internet said that the green also has kind of a garlic flavor to it, so you can cook with it. So I did do that. I have done this in the past, but I didn't really document it. So I thought this was actually kind of a fun project that I could do, and I could actually see the process happen as well as benefit from the garlic after it grew. So this was just a fluke. It happens sometimes. Garlic cloves do grow in the pantry if they are older. If they are in the sunshine, that is not abnormal. So I thought I would use it and watch it grow. The experiment went from 5/14/26 to 8/12/26 in way of photographs. It did linger for another week or so after, but it did actually become limp and discolored. I don't know if you have plants, I'm sure you have seen this phenomenon of it just loses all structural integrity. It just plops over, almost as if it's been hit with some sort of chemical that, like an herbicide or something, but I did not do that. But it just lost its integrity and got kind of limp, and it wasn't, I don't think it was going to recover from it. I've waited around for plants at that stage to rebound, and they generally don't. So I did go ahead and end the experiment. I was not able to actually use the garlic in the kitchen because of it, but we'll kind of talk about it a little more as to what may have happened that the garlic did perish in the way that it did. So this picture actually shows, I did document in a few different ways from a few different angles. So I've got these photos from above and also the side angles from the first one of the first slides here. So this angle actually shows the bottom as well. I wanted to get root growth in it, and I did recognize the risk of what would happen pulling the plant out every week. I did recognize it as a risk. I thought I would take it just so I could see how both grow over time. So since I have done this experiment before and not documented, I wanted to try and get as much data as possible. And I would not really be able to see the roots in the planter that I had available to me, which is in this slide. There are little pieces of paper in it. That is because I had another project going inside of this planter, but lucky for the documentation of this presentation, nothing grew. And so it did not get in the way of these photos. It just looks as though there are little pieces of paper in it, but nothing will detract from the focus of this experiment. So the sudden illness of the plant while maintaining a comparable watering schedule might be due to the pulling up the root systems for photographing, though it did not seem to be a concern previously. This is kind of how it grew over time. Apologies, the laptop is going a little bit slow, so I do not see where it's at, if it has changed slides, but here it is. Okay, so 5/14 is when the experiment started. I did not do once a week. It was a philosophical once a week-ish for sustainability. I wasn't going to set a specific date and time for the watering. I didn't set a specific amount of water that I was going to use. It was just a natural I'm at home. This is a casual at home plant. And this is how I would normally water it. So this is, it was very casual, very realistic in like an at home setting. So it was just once a week ish. We have the 5/14/26, 5/20/26, and a little change there, 5/25/26. If you have a larger screen, you might be able to see a little bit better, but there is a tiny bit of root growth at the base, maybe just a tiny bit of green growth at the top on 5/25. 6/2, the roots are just a little bit longer yet. 6/11, the root is longer yet. You can see it kind of trailing off the bottom of the photo there, with a little bit of growth potentially in that top green. 6/18, the root is actually kind of bent off to the side there, but we still have that green coming from the top. And it's got a little more of the soil on it, perhaps due to watering moisture, if I did water recently for that particular photo. 6/24, this was kind of a question mark here because the root was not visible. It did not appear to be seen in this photo, and you can see it in 6/18. And so that was a concern. And I did actually pull these pictures for another slide for that intensive, for that close-up. So we'll talk about it later. But 7/1, again, negligible, in way of the root growth. 7/7, the green is much longer. You can see it's kind of segmented where it's pushing up from that original green. 7/18, still more growth. 7/24, still more growth. 7/28/26, that is also more growth. The root, you can see, is actually exceptionally long in 8/8, very, very long, the longest it's been. And then I do recall that I was a little bit concerned about reburying it with that long of a root. At first, I just kind of plopped it in. Then I realized, no, the root was definitely squished in in ways that probably would be detrimental. So I did actually mindfully kind of dig out a little more space for it on 8/8. 8/12, I pulled it out and I did not really see the root again. And so I don't know if it did get caught on something or if it was this photo does have quite a bit of soil on the bulb, on the garlic clove itself. So I don't know if it did get kind of squished up onto the clove itself, but it is what it is on this one. That was actually the last photo I was able to take of it while it was green, and then it did kind of fall over and start to kind of be sad and squished and limp. So I wish I had gotten actually a photo of that, but I didn't think of it. I was cleaning. I saw that it was dead. I was trying to consolidate planters because I had another pseudo failed experiment simultaneously. So I just kind of let that go. But that'll be a note for me for next time. Make sure to take that last photo when we're cleaning. It's still important. So, but that is how it looks there. This is the from above photos. I can't really see much, can't really see much, can't really see much. And they are, it was fairly small green for most of them. So you can just see a very small amount of green on the close-ups here. You can see it the best in 8/12, of course, where it was exceptionally longer compared to 5/20, 5/25, 6/2. So it did get longer. You can see it in 8/12. A lot of these other ones, it was harder to see. And so that is, that's, even on the close-up, it might be hard to see, but just a dash of green. So still wanted to put that in there just because, it's a different angle, and so it's still relevant. This is the kind of deep look at the roots that kind of seem to disappear. They did grow, and you can see them in 618. They did disappear 624, and then they started growing back, and there was evidence of the roots again on 724. So that was an entire month between. And then 8-8 was about a half a month later, and those roots are exceptionally long, very, very long. So that was quite a change, but it's when perhaps the plant did start to establish a bit more, and it really did start growing quite a bit. So that might have been the reasoning for that root growth. And then the roots were gone again, 8-12. So I don't know if they did get stuck in the soil. When I pulled out the garlic clove, obviously that wasn't a concern on 8-8 when I pulled out the garlic clove. You can obviously see that the roots are exceptionally long in that one, or at least one root is exceptionally long there. So it wasn't a problem. It was a problem. I cannot attest to what happened there with those roots, but that is just something to be curious about. It did seem kind of manipulated, and I don't know if that was with like watering or how that worked out, but just something to be mindful of. You still pull. The reestablishment of the roots took about a month, and it did seem exceptionally long. And in 724, or at least maybe a centimeter, whereas I think like the week before, we can look actually, the week before there was nothing, seemingly nothing. Let me go back one more. 724, 718. Yeah, it might be tougher to see, but it does not seem like there is anything there. And then all of a sudden, after a week or so, you do have about a centimeter of that root regrowing. So, it did take a little bit of time, and then it kind of took, and then it got bigger in 728, and 8-8, it was exceptionally long. So that's just an interesting scenario of where exactly did those roots go? And then watching them rebound. But then something happened and they were not able to rebound, unfortunately. So otherwise, looking at the plant growth itself, 624 was kind of a good picture of the length of the green top of that garlic. And then 7-1 is that next photo, and it's when that first sleeve of green split, allowing the green within to get even longer. So I argued that it was kind of like a cotyledon, which is like the first leaves on a plant, the baby leaves before the mature leaves come out. And so that first sleeve of green burst open and allowed for the continued growth of the mature plant after that first sleeve burst. So we do have that documented, and it did of course get pretty long before, unfortunately, it did pass on. This is kind of it in its glory before it was pulled from the soil because something happened, and it perished. So it went squishy, went limp, fell to the side, and it was seemingly beyond the point of recovery. So this was the last documented growth. Again, this experiment did not go the way that I wanted it. Obviously, I would have preferred it to get larger. I would have wanted to continue this experiment um, to I've had the garlic before, and it has gotten like a foot tall, and so it would have been nice to see this plant actually reach maturity and be able to document that whole process. But I was kind of tempting fate by pulling it out of the soil consistently, and I don't know. Um, Obviously that is a variable as to if they can rebound, if they can re-spread out um, and reestablish every time. So that could have been my bad, my user error. But I was just curious. I wanted to see, and I don't have those fancy glass planters with the root systems directly there for observation. So I wanted to see it, and I thought I could check it out, see what I could see, and it did not last very long, unfortunately. So it was a learning experience to kind of figure out how to execute an experiment, what works and what doesn't. Obviously, I would maybe rethink the bird's eye view. There it was very hard to see anything, so that angle might not have been as beneficial as another secondary angle. And I did have photos like in this last slide of the plant still in the soil, still established, but it wasn't for every single photo taking date. So that is why it did not end up being yet another slide of observation. But kind of learning techniques, tips, and tricks as to what not to do, and a little bit about the root systems. Again, it's hard to tell what exactly happened in the soil, under the soil, that we lost the roots for 812, and it's hard to tell also what happened that the plant did die, but there's still a lot to take away from this experiment, even though it is a seeming failure. So I will use that probably moving forward. Again, any questions?